Diddy has asked for a pardon, as has Ghislaine Maxwell. And it just sends chills down my spine because you think, here we go again. One rule for them, one rule for us.
Absolutely. That's the joke. Just us means just for us. And I mean, I hate to admit this, but I wasn't surprised in either case. Ghislaine Maxwell had one foot out the prison already. We've been prepped for that. And we know that based on our previous conversations, that Sean John Combs is connected at the highest level of government, Wall Street, and the economy. So he will skate. And that's what I pronounced at the very outset. All those months ago, I think the trial lasted for a full 8 weeks. And Donald J. Trump is connected at the highest reaches. It seems irrefutably correct that he is connected to this larger system, not just by the sort of the waffling and outright evasiveness of his actions. I'm talking about President Trump, but the communal intelligence that we are all sharing amongst the public, completely sidestepping legacy media and indie media to come to our conclusions, which seems to be trending towards Trump is involved at some level. We don't know the specifics of it, but you know what? It makes sense. And I'll get to this when we talk about the Charlie Kirk assassination. It makes sense because who is Donald Trump? He's a casino man. He's the king of Atlantic City. He's at the art of the deal. And if you want to be at the center of any deal, then you got to be mobbed up. That makes Sean John Combs looks like a little corner, a corner crack dealer or dope dealer, on that level. That's where he really is. But he started to believe in his own hype. Now, once the black criminal class, and I hate to focus on their ethnicity, but I've written a book about the Asian criminal class, the yellow. And in America, Asian includes Chinese, South Korean. I know in Britain, Asian means either South Asian or Middle Eastern, but in the U.S. setting, it includes Asia in general. All the different groups have their own style of criminality, and the big failing of African American or Black, as I prefer it, criminality is that they're way too obvious about it. They have to pull back, and I'm just giving them hints for the ones that are coming up after P. Diddy, because all the groups have them. They have to start dressing in sort of Savile Row type, just like Wall Street bankers. Now, the Jewish criminal underclass figured this out a generation ago. Lou Wasserman, who was the head of MCA, and he worked for a medical doctor by the name of Dr. Jules Stein. He was an ophthalmologist, but he was also a Jewish mafia kingpin. His lieutenant, Lou Wasserman, who started out as one of these entertainment moguls or fixers, and it's all mobbed up, right? And they were known for their cigar chomping, loud suits. But he said, no, we're going to change our image. We're going to think Yiddish, but dress British. And that made them mainstream. And pretty soon, Lou Wasserman and his wife, Edie Wasserman, were known as Mr. and Mrs. Hollywood. They had a direct line to the American political establishment, the Democratic Party in specific. So my advice to P. Diddy, because he will get out, I'm making the prediction right now, he's going to buy his way out. My prediction is to go Ivy League, just stop the Cuban chains and all the blinging and all that stuff. Just cool it and wear Savile Row. You can still wear the bespoke suits, but tone it down, and then he'll be rehabilitated. All right. So the whole ethnic and the racial and the religious elements all kind of come together when we're talking about high-level criminality, which also includes Charlie Kirk, because his constituency are supposedly white Christian conservatives, right? That was what that big coming out party was, or not coming out party, but the memorial service, right? So I wanted, if I could, ease into a sort of a discussion. I want to present a couple of hypotheses about the Charlie Kirk assassination.
I
And
would
as
love
I
that.
was taking, is that
Yeah,
okay?
because I've been
Yeah,
anything you want to talk about. I'm
sure.
fascinated by your mind, and I know that the viewers are. But I've been following the Candice Owens messages that she alleges were from Charlie, and she's been
Oh,
dropping
yes.
them. And every night there's something new that she claims has happened. What do you make
Right.
of this?
I've been following that as well. I've been watching, despite my comments casting aspersions on Candace Owens, put it lightly, I do follow her work. I look at everybody as much as I can. The texts are real. They're subject to interpretation, but I will stick to my earlier observation is that she's also an important element of the drama of the theater, the performance aspect of what I refer to as Operation Charlie Kirk, all in caps, just like the CIA put MK Ultra, Project Mockingbird, Phoenix. It's always in caps. So I put Operation Charlie Kirk, all in caps. She's an integral element of it, and her faction, and it's a warring. It's not a civil war. There's multiple factions involved, but her particular faction is the Roman Catholic Church. They want a piece of the action, right? Because they are a large scale global criminal enterprise like the other groups, right? And we have to accept the fact that it's not one singular group, because I know that the discussion right now, it's about Israel and it's about Jews. But historically, we're talking about competing interests. Now, that works to our benefit. The people who haven't chosen or aren't in a certain partisan divide, we can negotiate within the middle, the little ruptures between the different factions. And we could use that to our advantage by getting them to fight amongst each other and neutralizing them so the everyday people can go about our business. And there's a famous classic film of Japanese cinema. It's called Yojimbo, starring Mifune Toshiro. And it's about a guy who is a hired bodyguard, Yojimbo, and he's a masterless warrior, samurai, right? And he hires himself to two different factions in a village. And he goes from one to the other and he gives them disinformation and misleading. This is what I do. This is my own game plan. And then I get them to fight amongst each other. They neutralize each other. And then after they're all dead, the village gets to just live, the villagers get to live their life like normal. So that's called Yojimbo strategy. It's a ninja strategy. And it's very important. The ninja strategy is very important as a solution to what seems like these persistent problems of politics, because the tendency is for people to follow personalities and factions and teams, especially in American culture. We're very sports oriented teams. We like to bet on the winner, and we're into celebrities and individuals. It could be Charlie Kirk. It could be Candace Owens. It could be Sean John Cobb. Whoever, it could be Ghislaine Maxwell, whoever it is. We have to turn inward and look at ourselves as being the principal actors in this society. So with that being said, I have very two simple hypotheses, and they relate to each other. And I owe it to one of your ancestors, William of Ockham. During the medieval period, he came up with this idea of Occam's razor, right? You take a complex situation and you parse it down, you slice it down to its simplest. And I'm also inspired by the Zen Buddhist aphorism, which is first thought, best thought, right? Whatever hits your gut, whatever simple explains the most complex phenomenon. In this case, we're talking about Operation Charlie Kirk. So hypothesis one, and this is going to either please or outrage the audience. I don't know which, but I'm saying that the Charlie Kirk assassination, the murder, is no more, well, it is more than that, but it's primarily a simple resolution of a business dispute. It's a business dispute in the guise of an ideological conflict. And think about it, that's a really good cover. You say, oh, it's about the Israeli influence in American politics. It's about the moral majority versus the secular society in America. So there's this roiling, and it's all being pushed by the indie as well as the legacy media, that there's just all this conflict of ideological tendencies within the society. But I'm saying I'm reducing it to its simplest. It is a business resolution that took place in now. That's not to trivialize what he represents, Charlie Kirk, and some of the secondary and tertiary meanings of it, but it was really based upon the fact that Charlie Kirk, there's an expression in Spanish, it's called plata o plomo. And this has been written about by people in the Harvard Business School, right? And it comes from the Spanish drug lord trade. People, we all know the famed drug lords that have passed through El Chapo and all the way down. But the notion is that you are offered silver, plata, or you get the lead, plata, silver, and plomo is lead. So you're given that offer. In the Godfather movie, it's called the offer you can't refuse. So Charlie Kirk was offered the plata. He turned it down. He refused the offer. So he was given the lead. That's business. That's pure Godfather, drug lord, plata o plomo business decision. All right. So what is at stake here?
Go ahead, so when you say he turned it down, is that the 150 million we're hearing, or is that the, he was going up against his donors? And how does his wife fit into this as well?
Oh my gosh, Erica Kirk, that's another hour-long story. And I did do a workup on her in my previous
We're
talk.
in no rush, Professor.
Oh, okay. All right. You asked for it. First of all, let me take a quick overview of his financials. This kind of surprised me. His net worth is $12 million US dollars, 12 million. In other sources, it says 14, but he's wealthy. He's in the upper 0.0% or 0.01%. In addition to that, he owned close to a $5 million estate near Phoenix. That's where you talked about his wife, the Levy, I think was her. They're Swedish extraction. They're from the Phoenix area, which is completely Pentagon run. Raytheon, those types of companies in the American Southwest. That's where Jeffrey Epstein had set up business himself with the Zorro Ranch, the Phoenix. But the Phoenix area, he had a $5 million estate there. He had an apartment, probably for his girlfriends, who knows. And he had a beachside condominium on Florida's Gulf Coast. right? That's the Gold Coast. That's where all the people like Donald Trump live. So he was hooked in. And my hypothesis is that he was given an offer by certain criminal organizations and said, Charlie, we gave you all this money to get you started. We started you out at $27,000 a year in 2016. And by 2021, you were making $400,000 a year. We gave you the money. We made you what you are. You were just an 18-year-old twerp with no direction in life. We built you up. We want a good part of Turning Point USA. We're going to own some of that. You're going to kick it to us. Now, there are historical precedents for this. Joseph P. Kennedy bought the election for his son, John F. Kennedy, by doing a deal with the Illinois, specifically the Chicago mob. We all know the story, Sam Giancana, and he double-crossed them. Not only did they double-cross them, but they put little Bobby Kennedy on the mafia to put them out of it. That was the ultimate double-cross. So JFK, on a purely pragmatic business level, had to die. So this is what I'm looking at, the history and the patterns and how this operates in the mafia society, and the understanding American culture, politics, and the economy through the lens of organized crime is one of the central elements of my pedagogy, if you will. That's how I view the world. And it's universal. It includes the black people like Sean John Combs, the yellows, Jews, whoever, Arabs, whoever you want to pick. Gangsters make the world go around, and the rest of it's window dressing. Yes, you were going to say
the whole thing is so strange as well. You know, we hear when it happened, there was someone that fell to the ground and pretended that they'd shot him, and then the whole story that's come out. I think, you know, one thing Candace Owens has done very well is put the spotlight on it, because sorry, the mainstream media are, you know, onto the next story. But obviously we've got questions, and you know, even from the photo card, someone from Turning Point going to calmly get it after Charlie was shot and then walking away. And all of these things, you know, if someone had done this and it was truly a lone wolf or whoever, the FBI would be, well, I say would be all over it, but I have no trust in any policing force. So, you know, who knows? But the whole thing about this is just so crazy. And then we're just left here like, move along now, nothing to see, nothing to see. And it's then up to people like yourself and Candice to actually shed light on these areas, because we've not got a clue what's going on, really, if we were following the lead from people in authority.
Well, this is where our creative imagination comes into play here. This is where Chat GPT and Grok will never be able to outdo us, because we have the infinite generativity of human creativity at our disposal. It's a God-given gift, right? So if you accept the hypothesis one, that the Charlie Cook assassination was just an old-fashioned extortion scheme carried out to its ultimate, then you might accept the secondary hypothesis that I have, that Operation Charlie Kirk was proof of concept of lethal autonomous weapons systems. Wrap your mind around that phrase, lethal autonomous
Break it down for us again, Professor.
Pardon me?
Break it down for us again.
Well, according to NATO and Pentagon military doctrine, we are at the 7th stage revolution in military matters, 7th generation military warfare. And the key to that are these lethal autonomous weapons And we know them generically, for example, as drones. They're being used heavily already in battle in Ukraine, right? Against the Russian T-60 tanks. They're taking them out. Now, it stands to reason that these innovations in autonomous weapons could be deployed in a proof of concept demonstration at Utah Valley College against Charlie Kirk. That's why all these guys who are in special forces with the tattooed sleeves, who are talking about 38 caliber, 308 caliber rifle and ballistics and the angle of entry wounds. Oh, he was shot from the back. He was shot from the bottom tunnel. That's why they're way off base. They're fighting the last war. They were in Afghanistan fighting kinetic wars. We are in the 7-stage revolution, and what we saw, this is a hypothesis. I have no proof of this time, but I'm encouraging people to start reconceptualizing what really took place in the assassination and get away from the boom boom kinetic warfare model and look at directed energy weapons as possibly being used in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So that's my second most important hypothesis. One, it was a gangland hit of an extortion racket, just like we saw in the assassination of JFK. And secondly, it was proof of concept of this new stage of warfare that's going to be targeting individuals instead of blowing up a lot of innocent civilians and getting the public turned against a certain group. It could be the Students for Democratic Society. It could be the Irish Republican Army. It could be Hamas, whoever it is. That doesn't really sit well with the general public when you blow up people who are just minding their own business. But if you have precision, autonomous, lethal weapons, we know them generically as directed energy weapons, then you might have something. You take out this individual, Charlie Kirk, and there's no forensic evidence of it. What do you think of that?
I mean, when I saw the news about Charlie Kirk, I thought it was a warning to a lot of other people as well. Like, for example, in the UK, people like Tommy Robinson. And I thought it was a very clear message, fall in line, people, because and who is at the top, I don't know. But I know that, people that ruffle feathers don't seem to live long lives a lot of the time. And so he was inconvenient to a lot of people, was Charlie Kirk.
He was inconvenient, but that strategy didn't seem to work because Tommy Robinson was the centerpiece of the most massive public demonstration in modern British history. This is in London. It's just a couple of weeks ago, right?
I was there.
Oh, you were there? Please.
Yeah, I was presenting.
I've been meaning to ask John about it, but tell me what it was like. What was the energy like?
Oh, it was amazing. It was unbelievable. It was the most it was the safest I've ever felt in London. The energy was wonderful and it made me full of hope. And then the day after, I just felt really sad that then you see how it's all being weaponized. And sometimes when you see the enormity of how corrupt the mainstream media is, it does really affect you because you feel this small in a huge world. But then days like Unite the Kingdom, you think this is amazing. Like you all work for us. We, the people, are in charge, but we often forget we are in charge.
So you have a real time, in person, not a Zoom event gathering. And London is great. It has all these great public spaces that are like custom built for the will of the people to be demonstrated. And same with Washington, D.C. It has all these incredible arcades and plazas. Now, of course, we had January 6th that said, no, you're not going to do this, or we're going to arrest you if you come out here. But that's also the risk you run. And in fact, what I'm reading about and seeing in a lot of really incredible independent presentations is that the Charlie Kirk Memorial event, which had about 60,000 people in Arizona, again, the Phoenix area, was geofenced. And it was, are you familiar with the term geofencing with the cell phones?
Yeah.
They can track you and get your data. It was geofenced, and it was done by TPUSA. And reportedly, that data was sold to Israeli intelligence. And they said, well, it's just for marketing purposes. But they have all your data.
Oh, yeah. There's
And
always
so
an answer, isn't there? They've always got an answer for everything. You know, when corruption is called out, it's, oh, no, this is common practice. We always collect data in this way.
Right. There's a solution to that. Don't carry your cell phone, or don't use a so-called smartphone at all if you can avoid it. And if you do carry it in public, you can get a little sleeve. It's, based on the Faraday cage, and just foil them in this just very primitive ways of frustrating these individuals, right? But the point is that these organizations do not give up in trying to maintain their control of the population. And that's only because we are, as you noted earlier, because we are so popular. When we get together and we see other millions of people on the same track, either in person or online, then that's cause for worry amongst these high-level mobsters. And they do go down eventually, by and by. I don't know what the outcome of the Comey indictment will be. Maybe he'll be given a token sentence, but at least this is a first step. And it was only done through independent pressure applied to the government system. Of course, he had a faction against him that was willing to say, yeah, we got to take him out of business.
Yeah.
Comey, and his daughter too, Maureen Comey, who was one of the prosecutors of the Diddy trial. And as soon as they fired her too. They moved her out of the way. Right. So this is
fired her after Diddy's case, though.
I'm sorry?
They fired her after Diddy's case, didn't they? You know, they let her just pretend to get busy and then fired her.
Right. And if you want to look at the Comey family, both James Comey and his daughter, that's like an extension of Irish mafioso type activity. Right. Whitey Bulger out of Boston area, one of the most prominent criminals ever in American history. And eventually he was found. He was hiding out in Los Angeles, in plain view in Santa Monica, California. And he was also, by the way, subjected involuntarily to LSD experimentation while he was doing prison. But he was part of the old guard Irish mafia that would go to businessmen, people sort of like a Charlie Kirk type guy, invest some money in their little restaurant, their store, whatever, and then they'd come back later and say, okay, you have a new partner. That's me. All right. That's where the Comeys come from, if you want to look at it. I mean, we've all seen the Godfather trilogy, right? Francis Ford Coppola. That is the template. That's the model, right? And then after they make their nut, right? They make their money. By the way, Whitey Bulger's brother was, I think, a former president of the University of Massachusetts. I mean, he was a high-level educator. So they had the whole spectrum covered. And some of them went to Harvard Law School, and they became James Comey, or they became Maureen Comey, right? Again, I think we have to look at these situations as people talk about civil war. No, this is gang warfare at a very elemental level. The other stuff is just sort of chaff, I would say.
And how do you think how does Erica fit into this then?
All right. She's a beauty queen. We're talking about I forgot her maiden name, Luntva, I believe, but I'll call her Erica Kirk. She started as a beauty queen. She was matched with Charlie Kirk, right? That's how it works at this level, right? Mark Zuckerberg is matched with Priscilla Chen, Dr. Priscilla Chen. They met at Harvard. There's a whole sort of romantic comedy, cute meat formula that these people tend to have, right? But they're matched.